Okay, good afternoon. My name is Blaire Visser, and I will be examining urban green spaces as a potential solution to species endangerment from urbanization. Urbanization is the single greatest threat to global biodiversity. It has resulted in a dramatic increase in species endangerment throughout North America. Urbanization has led to at least 275 endangered species in the United States and Puerto Rico. Oscar Vinter, a conservation scientist, concluded that in the United States, habitat loss affects 89% of the native species. In Canada, habitat loss that affects 94% of the species is caused primarily by urbanization. According to the stimulus piece, Urban Evolution, during urbanization, natural ecosystems will have to adapt in order to survive. However, in these ecosystems, the genetic biodiversity that fuels adaptation dwindles. This causes native species to become endangered or worse, extinct. If a solution is not found, then species of plants and animals will become extinct, causing human health to decrease, ecosystem instability, and a decrease in economic activity, among many others. This map shows the U.S. cities with the most urban green space. As you can see, there are not many cities with these spaces. Surprisingly, cities may hold the solution to a more resilient future between humans and nature. Conserving biodiversity requires some creativity. My perspectives include ecologists, conservation biologists, and economists. Studying the facts about an ecosystem's productivity is an ecologist's #1 priority. Ecologist Dr. Lay conducted a study that showed that of the participants, 78% reported positive correlations between green space interaction and mental and physical health, while only 5% reported negative associations. Positive health correlations can be a major motivating factor that urges people to act on the issue. As you can see, some examples include reduced stress, depression, and anxiety, enhanced physical well-being, and enhanced healing, among many others. David Pimentel, a professor of ecology, states that ecosystems require a balance among the various organisms that make up a system. This diagram shows that non-living and living things make up an ecosystem's ability to function properly. Therefore, the protection of these areas using urban green spaces is extremely important if productive ecosystems are the goal. In the stimulus piece, Urban Evolution, Chloe S., an evolutionary ecologist, investigated North American mammals and their ability and concluded that there were lower population sizes when they lived in urbanized environments. Different requirements throughout a species' life cycle may limit the population size, but multiple green spaces of different types may fulfill these requirements. Another factor that needs to be considered is management of these green spaces. Mila Aronson, an urban ecologist, found that these smaller green spaces can be connected to natural areas and managed at the neighborhood scale to better support wildlife populations. Ecologists need to work together with urban planners to create specific, effective varieties of green spaces that perform their purpose. A conservation biologist protects the diversity of life. They agree with ecologists on the benefits of conserving native species. However, they have differing opinions on urban green spaces as a potential solution. Donald Dearborn, a conservation biologist, states that urban green spaces will be valuable if the goal is to maximize human exposure to nature, but may be less valuable if the goal is to maintain functional, sustainable parcels of the native landscape. This is different from the ecologist's perspectives because they believe that these areas will increase the chances of survival of native species, not decrease. Many conservationists think that the size of these green spaces will not be able to support the native species. However, small blocks can link with the surrounding habitat on the city margins. This achieves long-term sustainability by creating a larger habitat and yielding the time necessary for them to adapt properly. This is an example of urban green spaces connected within a city. There's a park, river, vacant land, garden, and a green road. These are some examples of what a green road or a greenway would look like. As you can see, they are connected to parks, and the one on the lower right is connected to a river. Economists, being a simple, reliable perspective due to the data that is typically more concrete, tie ecologists and conservationist perspectives together and agree on the economic benefits, light as they may be. Economist Brian Chet concluded that species conservation affected per dollar invested would be low. Therefore, the least expensive areas would offer the greatest conservation value. Endangered species seem to be increasing at a rapid rate compared to the funding involved. There is an all too frequent assumption of a zero value for natural assets, which are often referred to as ecological goods and services. But conserving biodiversity is cost-effective due to the future healthcare savings. Incorporating biodiversity into the core of economics can positively impact species endangerment in North America. Economists, ecologists, and urban planners can create plans for a city that will be cost-effective while increasing biodiversity. Connecting urban green spaces of the correct size and in the most effective areas in a network throughout cities will decrease the rate of species endangerment throughout North America and eventually the world. Some limitations include the government's financial abilities to support these spaces, the surrounding population, and privately owned land that is being used for urbanization. Some implications would include saving endangered species while preventing more to come, increasing human health, positive climate change, and more productive ecosystems. We need to work with nature, not against it. We can seed creativity in times of crisis. We can use nature to become more resilient in the future. Taking these steps might achieve a friendlier world for humans and other forms of life. Sadly, many articles related to this topic are dated. There is a lack of research presently about urban green spaces as a potential solution. This is an issue because it seems to be that this topic was explored but not carried out to its fullest potential, hence why we are still in a biodiversity crisis. More research is needed to implement these urban green spaces in cities to potentially decrease the species endangerment throughout North America. Thank you for listening, and these are my citations.
Blair, here's your question. How did you approach and synthesize the differing perspectives in order to reach a conclusion?
So first, I separated my perspectives into which one were more reliable. So the ecologists are reliable because they take the data about ecosystems' productivity. Conservation biologists, on the other hand, are not as reliable because they only have their conservation efforts to fall back on. And then economists are probably the most reliable because they have the hard facts and their numbers, so they can only go one way or the other. There's no in between. And after I did that, I pulled more from the reliable perspectives of economists and ecologists, and then only used conservation biologists to tie them together.
Okay, and I've got your second question. Let me put my glasses on. What additional questions emerged from your research, and why are these questions important?
Some additional questions were if these green spaces are actually being used in cities now, and if they are cost effective, and are they working? I didn't really get this information because a lot of the research that I had was dated and there wasn't much present information. Even though I do see like parks in cities now, but I didn't have the research that showed that they were being